Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Weekly Waypoint. Today we are of course playing Diablo IV, and very quickly I do just want to mention that this is a dungeon in the final zone of the game, so there are some very light visual spoilers in terms of enemy variety, so you may want to tab out, but it's probably no big deal. But yeah, Diablo IV released for us early access shills who got to feel bad about the money they paid when Bobby Kotick came out and reminded us all of what a human slimeball he is in his recent interview. That's something I should probably preface this with. Don't let my Diablo 4 hype, because I'm about to offload a lot of Diablo 4 hype, don't let my Diablo 4 hype distract you from the fact that Bobby Kotick and other Activision execs are not good people. But yeah, for some context, for those of you who don't know, I'm a massive Diablo 3 fan. I first got into the game post Reaper of Souls, which probably helps with that. And it's interesting. I feel like I got into the game shortly after live service. I mean, live service updates never ended for that game, but you know what I mean, like after they probably like shrunk the team down and stopped really marketing it and stopped talking about it and you know, put it on life support kind of thing, even though they did eventually turn around and give us the Necromancer DLC a few years later. So Diablo has always kind of felt to me like the Blizzard property I love that was always shunned by Blizzard themselves. So it's super weird and delightful to be in this time period we're in now, where Diablo is the golden child. It's the game that other people like who don't tend to play Blizzard games are giving a shot this weekend, you know. It's or last weekend, I guess, from the time you're seeing this. It's really fun time to be a Diablo fan. If you're listening to this video and you're thinking, well, he doesn't sound very excited, that is a facade I'm trying not to gush, because I've listened back to Weekly Waypoints where I've been like, hello, because I've been so excited about things, and I'm like, let's tone it down a bit. But do not let my calm demeanor deceive you. I have thoroughly loved Diablo 4, and if you're wondering where we're up to in terms of story, and I will give no story spoilers in this video, do not worry, I have finished the story. I finished the main story. I finished it last night, and according to True Achievements, I'm the 96th person to have done so, at least with an account linked to their website. Maybe that's updated, I don't know. Maybe it's because I manually updated my profile, and when they sweep through every week and update everyone's, I'm going to jump down a few thousand places or whatever. But the point is, I got it done pretty damn quick. And I wasn't actually attempting to get it done pretty damn quick. That's just how things shook out because of, luckily, this game released literally at the end of my working week. And, you know, I had a shift this Sunday morning that I'm recording this, but now I've got a week off as well, so I can just spend it playing Diablo 4. And hopefully seeing Spider-Verse. I should probably try and arrange that with a friend. But anyway, as far as my thoughts on the story without spoiling it goes, this is, I mean, people are calling it the best story ever told in a Diablo game, and it feels like, basically this entire game feels like they've taken Diablo 3. Obviously they've taken the gameplay of Diablo 3 and given it the aesthetics of Diablo 2. That's a selling point we're all very well aware of by now, and it's something that they've achieved with great achievingness. But another take I kind of want to give you is it feels like they've taken Diablo 3 and they've given it like the PlayStation exclusive treatment. Obviously this isn't a PlayStation exclusive, but they've given it like the extremely polished like narrative experience, well put together game treatment of AAA titles these days that typically come from first party publishers. And I'm gonna keep saying this all the way throughout the video, but what a fantastic fucking time to be a Diablo fan. Oh, I could cry, it's so good. Especially the cinematic in the final act. Oh my god. I won't lie, I did play through the entire game kind of hoping there would be some reference to the events of Diablo 3, which I didn't really expect there would be, but kind of hoped there would be, but there wasn't really, apart from a couple of very vague passing references. And I just want to come out and say I'm completely fine with that. Diablo 4 did not need to pay homage to Diablo 3's story in that way, and there's still plenty of time for it to do so in seasons or expansions, which they've kind of unofficially confirmed are coming, by the way. If you haven't been watching the developer interviews, Rod Ferguson a few times now has been saying stuff like, oh yeah, we're working on expansion 1 and we're starting up work on expansion 2, and it's like, okay, cool, good to know. Now, I don't think the story was perfect. I think there is one character who gets introduced around Act 4 who doesn't feel very fleshed out or characterized, and I feel like there might have been some cut content in that direction, but I guess it's not a spoiler to say her name. She's called Thaisa, for anyone who knows what I'm talking about. She just, like, compared to the other characters, I don't know, she just kind of feels like she comes out of nowhere, and then her character takes a slight turn in a direction which feels a little weird, and it's not a spoiler to say, it's not like a big deal, this turn she takes, it's just like you see her in a different role, and none of it feels particularly fleshed out, but that's like maybe the one minor narrative hiccup. I have actually ranked the acts on Twitter, and I'm going to have to go and see what rankings I gave them because I've forgotten. And minor structure spoilers in case you don't want to know how many acts there are. I guess I should say, like, I guess anyone who really, really wanted to stay away from any information about Diablo 4 probably wouldn't have listened to this video, so I think we're fine. But yeah, I've put, so there are 6 acts. Yes, 6 acts. And I've ranked them. And just so you know, the bottom ranking is not a bad act. It's a brilliant act. The bottom bar is brilliant. Act 1 is in 6th place, and honestly I think that's just because I played through it already on the beta, so it wasn't really surprising me. Thinking about it in retrospect now, maybe it goes above Act 4, but Act 4 is in 5th place, followed by Act 5, followed by Act 3, followed by Act 2, which I think I will forever have a soft spot for, followed by Act 6 because it's the last act and shit goes the hell down. I don't want to overhype Act 2 for people who haven't played for it yet, because I think the beauty of Act 2 is you're not expecting it to go as hard as it goes, but it's just, oh my goodness, it's so good. I love it. I think it might be the strongest standalone aspect of the game. Like Acts 1, 2 and 3 kind of, they're not standalone, but you know what I mean, they're more self-contained than the later acts, and I think Act 2 is the strongest of those for sure. And I don't know, it's just, I love the characters that were introduced, I love the story beats that happened, and each act obviously kind of has a final boss. The final boss of Act 2 is a spectacle to behold. It was just so fucking good. But I mean, you know, it was alright. It was alright. You probably wouldn't like it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. In terms of gameplay, as you can see, I am playing a lightning-based sorcerer build, and if you are being eagle-eyed and you are looking at my bar, you may notice that I am actually using a specific build from Wowhead, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, I decided to just go in blind and just do my own thing, which I think you probably should in a Diablo game, right? But I was on World Tier 2. You may also notice I'm now on World Tier 1. You may also notice I'm slightly underleveled for the zone we're currently in. This all ties into each other. So the thing with, I don't know if it's the same for every class, but the thing with Lightning Sorcerer is, and I have seen this, you know, I have seen people say this online, so it might not just be my class, but it feels like when you're going through the game, your power levels kind of vary, and to be honest, it's kind of the same problem I had in Dragonflight. The level scaling is wonderful and kind of a curse at the same time, because you feel yourself hitting less hard with every level you gain, which is counterproductive to the fantasy of leveling up in the first place, right? You're leveling up so that you can kill stronger things, so, and some of that is still there, like you get, you know, bigger demons to kill as you go through the zones, but it's a problem. And it was getting to the point where, especially doing dungeon side content and stuff, because dungeons are about 15 to 20 minutes long, it was starting to feel like a slog to kill things, and that's usually when Diablo falls down for me. And so I was like, alright, I'm going to overcome my pride, and I'm going to turn the difficulty down at least until I hit endgame, because I want to enjoy this game as much as I can. It turns out putting it down to World Tier 1 did not change the difficulty that much. It was still kind of a challenge. I don't think I ever died in World Tier 1, but I got close a couple of times, which is kind of where I wanted the difficulty to be. Whereas in World Tier 2 I was dying, not often, but occasionally enough for it to become kind of frustrating. Because the problem as well is you feel like you're doing something wrong with your build when you are putting points into things that synergize off of each other, so therefore should be giving you power, but you're still losing power every time. And you know, you're equipping the right gear, you're upgrading gear at the forge sometimes, you're extracting legendary powers and imprinting them into other pieces of gear so that you can keep them for a little bit longer. You're doing everything that you feel like you should be doing, but you are still feeling the power of the game creep away from you at certain points. And it wasn't ever insurmountable, don't get me wrong, apart from when the Butcher spawned on me one time. He is overpowered as fuck, but I think he's supposed to be. But it was just a little... I got around Act 4, Act 5, I got a little bit, like, fed up. Not fed up, but it was more like I was having an 8 out of 10 time instead of a 10 out of 10 time. So yeah, maybe you were coming to this video expecting it to be all sunshine and roses, but I actually got some critical things to say. But yeah, even when I turned it down to tier 1, I still felt like I was hitting like a wet noodle. So I actually did eventually go to Wowhead and look up this build, which is very similar to mine, except it doesn't use the crackling lightning anywhere near as much. And to be honest, I think when I hit level 50, I am going to bump it back up to tier 2. And I'm not too far away from that now. I'm level 43. I can't really speak to the end game because I've barely scratched it. I'm just now like doing the Tree of Whispers, which is the reason I'm doing this dungeon in the first place. I'm curious, by the way, because when I was looking up this build, I saw that you get 50 levels worth of talent points, and when you don't get talent points after level 50, that's when you start getting your Paragon boards, right? But the hard level cap is still 100, so I'm wondering why. Because also all the zones in the world, the highest they go up to is 50. So why is the level cap an extra 50 levels? What's in those 50 levels that, you know, justifies putting them into the game instead of just having Paragon levels from that moment onwards? Unless those 50 levels are Paragon levels and there's only 50 Paragon levels, but I kind of doubt that. I'm now at this crossroads where I really want to continue leveling, obviously, my sorcerer, who is my main character. He's called Candor, by the way, as in like, oh, you know, being candid in conversation. I appreciate your candor. Is it candor? 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 I've never heard it said out loud because it's kind of an old-timey word people don't say anymore. That's one thing I forgot to say about the narrative, by the way. To play a character, you know, they've obviously strayed away from like the high concept stuff of like the Nephilim and like being the chosen one, all the stuff people didn't like from Diablo 3. But your character does play a vital role in the story, like in 3, and it like has things to say, and very much you get a sense of who they are, and it's really cool. But yeah, man, I just want to make a necromancer now, and a druid, and a barbarian, and then a rogue, probably in that order, to be perfectly honest. Part of me is going, oh, I don't just want to make a caster class followed by a caster class, but then part of me is thinking I'm just overthinking it and just make what the hell I want to make. So I don't know if I'm going to focus on leveling this character, if I'm going to focus on making other characters as well, or probably just split some time between both paths, to be perfectly honest, because this is Diablo and this game is going to go on forever, and it's going to be a fun time. You'll kill lots of demons, and that's pretty much my thoughts on it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, there's endless little tidbits of minutiae of things to talk about, but I think I've given you my overarching impression, at least without spoilers. There's plenty of things I could go into detail about, the story-wise, and maybe I will in another video, but it's just such a fantastic experience, and I hope Endgame holds up as well. But while we still have some time, what else have I been doing with my week? That's a good question. What was my life before Diablo 4? Oh, this'll get away from Diablo. You know what I played before Diablo 4? Diablo 2. I was getting so impatient for Diablo 4, I continued my playthrough of Diablo 2 Resurrected, which, for those of you who don't know, is my first ever playthrough of that game. I just got distracted by Diablo 3's quote-unquote final season, and stopped playing to go and play that. So I got back into my Diablo 2 save, which was like 2 quests through Act 1, and I did most of the quests in Act 1. I was on the final quest, and I didn't realise that when you die in that game, you drop all of your loot, and you have to go collect it Dark Souls style. Or maybe not Dark Souls style, because isn't that like currency you drop? I don't know. But I was having kind of the same issue I was having in Diablo 4 actually, except it wasn't level scaling. It was just like the difficulty of the game getting harder and harder, despite me following a build on Icy Veins to make sure that I wasn't, you know, screwing myself out of the game attributes wise and that kind of thing, because that's definitely a thing you can do in Diablo 2. And I just I just started running into this brick wall of like, there is this elite I cannot kill because he replenishes his health every time I die, and I hit a brick wall, and I was lucky that Diablo 4 released that night because I was done with Diablo 2 and I don't know if I'm going back. I mean, maybe I just need to go and grind some lower level enemies to level up, because obviously there's no level scaling in that game. It's hard levels, obviously. It's from 2000, and I do fucking love the atmosphere of Diablo 2. But for now, I'm being satiated by the atmosphere of Diablo 4, which is similar. Although I think the soundtrack of Diablo 2 is still heads and shoulders above Diablo 4. Diablo 4 has a brilliant soundtrack, but I don't know, it's not quite the same vibe. Oh, I also played Assassin's Creed 1 a little bit, which you saw in yesterday's video. Go watch that video, I guess. But yeah, basically I saw the Assassin's Creed Mirage trailer, which I talked about last week, I do believe. And I was just like, well, now I fancy some old school Assassin's Creed. And I had a handy dandy finished save file waiting for me to go back and do some achievement hunting in. So I did that in Damascus, and we had a gay old time. I also continued my adventures in the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm having trouble remembering if I did this last week or this week, but I finished Bane of the Gold Coast, which is basically like completion for the Dark Brotherhood DLC, although there are some Dark Brotherhood achievements for me still to do in terms of doing Black Sacraments and side quests, so I will continue to do those at some point. I'm still very excited for Necrom coming in a couple of weeks, by the way, for console. Oh, also, how could I forget? I have resubscribed to DC Universe Infinite, their comics subscription app, and I have been reading through Injustice. Year 1 and Year 2, fucking bangers, by the way. Year 2 got me really interested in the Green Lantern side of a DC Universe, which I don't know much about, so I have been reading the Secret Origins. I've only read the first 2 issues so far, but I've been reading Green Lantern Secret Origins, and I'm really enjoying it so far. They also include in that little reading order list thing on the app the very first appearance of Green Lantern in the original comics, so it's fun to see like the original version of the origin versus the updated version. I like that they did that. But also, I'm halfway through Year 3 of Injustice, and it's still really good, but I think it is starting to get away from itself a bit in terms of the main themes and stuff, so hopefully it gets right back there, because Tom Taylor, bloody brilliant writer for comics. Good lord. You may be wondering if this means the Star Trek fixation is over, but actually, you've got to blame Netflix for that, because they've killed account sharing in the UK, and that's currently up in the air as to whether I'm able to account share from my sister, and I don't really want to push it in case I accidentally, cause her an extra charge or something, so I might just have to get Netflix on my own. But I really don't want to reward Netflix for their greedy corporate ways. But hey, that's the world we live in. I mean, I'm playing Diablo, so clearly I fall prey to that shit. Anyway, thank you so much for coming and hanging out and listening to me ramble about Diablo 4. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it. I'll see you when I'm 28. It's my birthday this week. I tried to hit end record, but we're still here. Oh god, this is awkward.